Pandemonium Reigns.
Josh Heupel makes his return to Norman, Oklahoma this Saturday. College game day is going to be there. And let me just ask you this as we get started. Is this the biggest game of Josh Heupel's career in his tenure at Tennessee? It sure does feel like it.
Reigns.
Do you understand how the narrative can change around him if he returns home and gets blown out or doesn't get this win? And what that's going to say for the name and for the brand and for the logo of Oklahoma going into their very first game in this conference in the SEC. Now, with that said, tell me that the SEC, Greg Sankey, they knew exactly what they were doing when they were creating schedules as Texas and Oklahoma came into this conference. They knew what they were doing. They strategically put Georgia and Texas against one another. And boy, did they strategically pit Tennessee and Oklahoma against one another. And ironically enough, they found a way to put it in Norman. I like it. I dig it. I'm here for it. This is the first time Tennessee has played Oklahoma since 2015, when that game went to overtime. Josh Dobbs throws a pick in overtime to blow a lead and give that game away to the Sooners. And Eric Stryker is over there barking near the Tennessee student section, talking about the Big 12 this and Oklahoma that. Now we're going to find out. Almost a decade later, we're going to get to do this thing again. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. My name's Dan. This is Pandemonium Reigns. We're going to talk Tennessee and Oklahoma. In the first little segment here, we're going to break down some stats, maybe look at the game plan for Oklahoma. And in the second half, I want to ask this question of who bears the burden in this game on either side, and what are the keys to victory for the Vols? What are the keys to victory for the Vols? So let's get right into this. So what do we have here? Let me summarize it by saying this. This is not the Oklahoma that we have known this millennium. It's not. It is not the Oklahoma that we have known this millennium. The Oklahoma that we've known are the Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks, the potent offenses, the up and down the field with the quarterback and the receivers, the Baker Mayfields, the Kyler Murrays, the Westbrooks and the Lambs, up and down the field, putting up points, lighting up the scoreboard. You can even go back to the early 2000s when Josh Heupel was your quarterback, Rep Bomar and those guys, marching up and down the field, putting points on the board. This is not the same Oklahoma that you have once known. Now let's take a look at some stats here, some things that I want to compare, and this is going to be courtesy of Michael who sent me this. Image is going to come to you from that SEC podcast. This is just fascinating to me. So check this out. So pass offense efficiency, Tennessee 31st, Oklahoma 111th. Again, not the OU of this millennium. Pass defense efficiency, 41 for Tennessee, 46 for OU. So pretty comparable there. Pass rush or rush offense efficiency, Tennessee, 18. There we go. Oklahoma, 43rd. Rush defense efficiency, 2nd for Tennessee, 9th for Oklahoma. 3rd and 4th down offense, 5th in the country for Tennessee. Oklahoma, 94th. 94th. That is insane. Insane numbers. 3rd and 4th down defense, Tennessee 10th. Oklahoma 109th. So some pretty remarkable numbers there. Some pretty wide gaps, some pretty not so wide gaps when you consider the pass defense efficiency, but nonetheless, things that I think that we should take into consideration. This next thing right here, the Oklahoma offense statistically versus the Tennessee defense statistically. Oklahoma offense right now averaging 33.7 points per game. Awesome. Okay, not bad. I mean, that's about what we averaged in 2023. Got us 8 games. Tennessee defense allowing 4.3. I hear it. I know what you're going to say. Tennessee hasn't played anybody. Oklahoma hasn't really played much of anybody either. I will say that Tulane is probably a more comparable opponent to NC State than Tulane is to Kent State, and who we played last week. Total yards per game: Oklahoma offense 325, Tennessee defense only allowing 160. Passing yards per game: 166 for Oklahoma, Tennessee defense only allowing 105. Rushing yards per game: Oklahoma 159, Tennessee defense allowing 55.7. 20-yard plays: Oklahoma has 8 plays that have gone for 20 yards or more offensively. Tennessee, we've allowed 3. 3. All right. The Tennessee offense and the Oklahoma defense. Tennessee putting up points on the board: 63.7 points per game. Oklahoma allowing a solid 11.3. I don't care who you're playing. I don't care if you're playing Texas and Alabama or if you're playing Tulane and Houston. That's impressive. That's impressive. Okay. It's hard to keep people off of the scoreboard. Total yards per game: 639 to Oklahoma allowing 264. Passing yards per game: 303 to Oklahoma allowing 187. Rushing yards per game: here's the difference maker: 336 yards per game for the Vols, Oklahoma allowing 77.7. 20-plus yard plays for the Tennessee offense: 22. That's good for top 5 in the country. Top 5 in the country. The Oklahoma defense has allowed 5. So statistically, a lot of things that favor the Volunteers here. The problem is that this game is not played on paper. Sometimes it's just a matter of how much did the home stadium impact the opposing offense? How much did they get into the ears? How much did the return sentimental feelings and emotions of a returning head coach who's a former national championship quarterback, how much did that get in his head? There are non-tangibles here that are going to play a factor. How much of a factor? Not sure, but you got to know, because we're human, there's going to be some kind of element here. So let me end this segment real quick by talking what I think Oklahoma is going to have to do in order to win this game. I think 2 things really, really have to happen for Oklahoma to win this game. The first thing I would say is this: Oklahoma has got to have explosive offensive plays. They're not doing it right now. They're not doing it. The verdict is still out on the Tennessee secondary. It hasn't been good under the Heupel area, but it's a whole new set of faces. Whole new set of faces in that Tennessee secondary, and that doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing. That could mean a very good thing. What we do know about the Tennessee secondary right now is when they're in, they want blood. They want to knock you out. They're coming to hit you in the mouth. So you have to love that. But Oklahoma has got to find a way to hit a deep ball here or there. And I'm not even saying one for a score, but they've got to do some things to ignite their drives, to keep the Tennessee offense off of the field and to keep the Tennessee defense guessing. They're going to have some big plays. They're going to have to do it. The second thing that I would say, and this really could tie into, my first point here, is that Oklahoma is going to have to play keep away. They're going to have to put drives together. We are now living in a world of college football where the clock plays a whole different role than it has in years past, and this is much easier. Is easier the word? Easier to do than it has been in the past. The best way to keep Tennessee off the board is to not give them the ball. It's to not give them the ball. Do not give Tennessee the ball. Play keep away. Force Tennessee into some early 3-and-outs. Get some turnovers if you can. Keep your stadium in this game. You want this stadium to have an impact. You want this thing, if you're Oklahoma, I think you want this thing to be, an exchanging of body blows and of punches. And you want this thing going late into the third and into the fourth when Tennessee's offense is rolling out onto the field and the TV cameras kick back on and the stadium begins to go into an uproar. That's what you want. That's exactly what you want. Keep your fans in this game. Now, we've done this thing, Tennessee perspective, where we've taken it out early. At least that's what we've been doing since the Iowa game, right? This is what Nico and company. I mean, the guys only played 2 quarters every single game thus far in 2024. So make some explosive plays, keep your stadium in this, keep away from the Tennessee offense, find ways when Tennessee's offense is on the field to take it away from them, to disrupt, to create turnovers, to force 3-and-outs, so forth and so on. And one thing that you have to like from an Oklahoma perspective is Oklahoma's defense can play sideline to sideline. And Tennessee loves to attack you vertically at 45-degree angles, sideline to sideline. We want to attack you everywhere. We want to spread you out. We want to run up your throat. We want to do all these things. And what plays into Oklahoma's favor is an ability to go sideline to sideline. They've got some serious team speed on the defense, and they're going to be well coached. I don't imagine that a Brent Venables defense is going to harm themselves, right? Keep everything in front of you, strip, rip, force turnovers, get off the field, put your offense back on the field. A couple of things that I think that are not necessarily a magic formula that if you do these things, it's going to guarantee your success. But I do think it is things that absolutely have to happen in order for you to win this game. All right, in this final segment, how I want to begin to land this plane is first, what I want to ask is who bears the burden in this game? For Oklahoma, I just spoke a lot about their defense and the things that they're going to have to do, but where's the pressure? Who is bearing the burden of getting this win? I think that's going to come on Jackson Arnold. Jackson Arnold is going to have to play one heck of a game in order to get this win for his Sooner team. He's going to have to do a lot. And what is not going to help him is his hodgepodge offensive line and his lack of production from his receivers. Not to mention, Jackson Arnold is the leading rusher for his team. So there is a lot of pressure on you, Jackson Arnold. Jackson, you're coming into this game with a 62.8 completion percentage. You've thrown for 484 yards. You've got 7 touchdowns. You have 2 interceptions. You are leading your team in rushing with 159 yards and 2 scores. Again, you have a broken offensive line. And if I am the offensive coordinator for Oklahoma, I am finding different ways to move my pocket to help my quarterback, and I'm looking to dial up different things that get the ball out quickly. If that read is not there, there is a designed alley for him to run through. You're probably looking at some RPO game from Oklahoma, but nonetheless, I would not try to beat this Tennessee team in a phone booth. Don't line up and say, we think our guys can hang with yours. I wouldn't do that if I were you. Move your pocket. Move your pocket. All right. Now, real quick before I move on to the pressure for Tennessee here, I think there is more pressure on Jackson Arnold than there is Nico. More pressure on Jackson than there is Nico. And it comes down to the things that I've kind of already said. You have a hodgepodge offensive line. Tennessee's not dealing with that. You're not really getting production from your receivers. I mean, if you're listening on podcast, my silence should tell you everything. And you're not getting anything from your run game. You are the run game. Nico doesn't have to do that. He's got yards on the ground, but Dylan Sampson is a do-it-all back. He's a do-it-all back. Not to mention, are we going to get a healthy Cam Seldon? Deshaun Bishop has proven that he needs to be on scholarship and scholarship fast. So you're getting production there. Now, I will say this, even though there is more pressure on Jackson Arnold than there is Nico, we're about to get a more fair verdict on Nico Iamaleava. This is his first true road game. He dropped some major bombs at SEC Media Days saying that he likes away games more, which is funny because you haven't played one. You haven't done this yet, Nico. We're going to find out. We're going to find out how – maybe not find out, excuse me. We're going to get a better insight on who, as a quarterback, Nico Iamaleava actually is. All right, so for Oklahoma, all the pressure is on Jackson Arnold. You are going to have to carry your team to this win. It is going to be on your back. You're going to have to do this. All right. For Tennessee, it's a little more dispersed, but I think there is a lot of pressure and there is a lot of burden on Tennessee's Dylan Sampson. I think that Oklahoma is going to dial it up defensively and they're going to bring pressure. How do I know? Because this is what Brent Venables does. This is what he's been doing since he's been overseeing a defense. Look at all those Clemson years, right? And those national championship runs. He likes to bring it, and he's got the dudes to bring it. So this is where you enter Dylan Sampson. We know what the offensive line is capable of. Dylan Sampson's weakness since he has been at Tennessee, probably since he's been putting on the pads, is pass protection. We all saw in 2022 when Tennessee went down to LSU and Sampson blew a read and got Hooker blown up. That can't happen. You can't allow that to happen. Sampson has improved in pass pro, but he's got to be really good come Saturday. The second thing for Sampson is when your number is called, I think you got to produce. I think you've got to what Butch Jones would call what he called runs that were 4 yards or more efficient runs. When you touch the ball, you need at least 4. I think 3's pushing it, but I think 4 is a much more safe number. You've got to be able to help Nico with the ball in the air. I think Oklahoma going into this is saying, if you're going to beat us, we're going to make Nico do it. We're going to make Nico do it, right? Which some Tennessee fans are saying, okay, go ahead. I think if I'm Oklahoma, I'm probably doing the same thing. He just hasn't proven it yet. He's got excellent footwork, right? We know how he can place it. Can he do these things on the road in a place like Norman, Oklahoma? If I'm Oklahoma defensively, I'm saying bring the heat. We are going to come at him this way until he shows that he can overcome it. All right. So I think there's a lot of pressure on Dylan Sampson. You need to be productive in the run game, and you need to be really good at pass pro. Obviously, the same thing for Cam Seldon and Deshaun Bishop, but Sampson's going to get the majority of your snaps, so it's got to be Sampson. Here's the final thing. Keys to victory. Now, this is a little bit different than looking at Oklahoma's game plan, because I said regarding Oklahoma, if they do these things, it's not a guaranteed win, but you absolutely have to do them in order to win. Tennessee, I think it's a little bit different. I said on the previous episode regarding Tennessee needs to be able to create pressure to 4, and I think they can. If they can do that, and they can allow guys to sit in coverage or play man up, and you don't have to create pressure with extra bodies, that's just going to play into your favor. This game is a numbers game. And the reason why it matters so much more here is because you have a hodgepodge offensive line for Oklahoma, and you've got groups of dudes on the Tennessee front. When you rotate those guys in, they need to be able to get pressure with 4. I think if you do that, you really, really, really impact the outcome, the final score of this game. So create pressure with 4. The second thing, kind of like what I said with Oklahoma, but it's on its head, make OU play from behind. So don't do this thing where you go 3 and outs early or you turn the ball over. Get on the scoreboard, draw blood first, maintain this game from the lead. I don't think that Oklahoma, for one, has the ability, the schematics, the personnel to play from behind or to play catch up. I don't think that they can do it. I think they want to trade blows here. I think they would love to trade blows while they are maintaining the lead. Obviously, who wouldn't? And if it flips around on its head, if it's doing this thing where we're playing from ahead, 2 scores, their game plan is going to be minimized, and we're going to be able to pin our ears back, allowing that front 4 to eat and go get that quarterback. I don't think they're going to like that. And if you can do this thing where you take their crowd out of it early, first, second quarter is ideal. But if you haven't done it by then, you got to do it by the third. Take their crowd out of it. And once you have their crowd out of it, don't allow the explosive play. Don't allow the thing that sends their crowd into an uproar. Don't allow a 70-yard pass down the sideline. Don't allow a 40-yard rush out into the end zone. Don't allow these things. If they find a way to the end zone, make it completely miserable on their part, where, oh my God, we made it, but that was awful, right? You get what I'm saying? Nonetheless, this might be Josh Heupel's biggest game in Pantone 151C Tennessee Orange. It might be. And the whole thing has come full circle for him. Don't get it twisted, y'all. This man cannot stand Bob Stoops. He would love to go into Norman, Oklahoma, the place where he won a national championship, and embarrass Bob Stoops and Brent Venables, where he can look up to the press box wherever, Bob Stoops stands, looking down, point to him and say, "You're the one who made the mistake. You are the one who made the mistake." I think he's totally content and happy as a Tennessee Volunteer. I think his home is now here. I don't know that I'll ever come around to the idea of him making a shot at the pros. I think he's a Tennessee Vol. And you just have to know that Heupel would love to stick it to the man. After all that he went through about being fired in the early 2010s from Bob Stoops, also Bob could get his brother in ultimately, who didn't do a good job. And then for Bob Stoops just to retire a few years later. Absolutely ridiculous. So here it is. Here's my prediction. You've got Tennessee -7.5 going into Norman, Oklahoma on a Saturday night with College Game Day. I'm going to say that Tennessee not only gets this win, but they cover. There are just too many things on paper that will translate to the field. I know that the game is not played on paper, and sometimes I sound totally contradictory of myself. The game is not played on paper, it's played on the field, but there's a lot of things to like about us that the paper reflects, if that makes sense. The hodgepodge offensive line versus what is probably our greatest strength in our defensive front schematically for Oklahoma's offense. I'm pretty much in this place where test our secondary. Test it. I want to know. Let's find out what this Tennessee secondary is made of. Right now, I am on the glass half full side of the Tennessee secondary. I think they're better. I think they're improved. They play more fast. They play more decisive. There's less thinking, which was so much of our issue since 21, especially in 22 when we made that run. I'm going to take the Volunteers to win this game, to cover, and for Heupel to tell Bob Stoops to kiss it. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me as we preview this game going into the big one. What's the biggest one of Josh Heupel's career in Pantone 151C? I love you guys. Make sure you hit like and subscribe on the channel, like on this video. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really, really appreciate it. One of our last videos absolutely blew up, and I could not thank you more for it. I would love for you to do that again. Support your fellow volunteer lover. God bless. Go Vols.
Pandemonium Reigns.